Oh, she was ready for anything. Anything but that. Poor thing. She'd even popped the emotional popcorn, right? All set to watch you sob on her little theater stage, complete with a mushy speech, guilt dripping through your fingers, and a final, "I've changed, I swear." A performance worthy of an Oscar, one she could screenshot, narrate in her girlfriend's chat, and make herself the star of that soap opera she's been scripting since high school. But oh, surprise! You did the unthinkable. The audacity! The heresy! You didn't react. No long message, no scraps of emotion, not even a reversed, "Hey, stranger." You basically pulled a disappearing act like a magician, tired of performing for an ungrateful crowd. And that, my friend, destroyed her world. Because a woman who feeds on drama doesn't know how to fast in the face of silence. She knows how to handle screaming matches, loud voices, Instagram story shade, the ancient art of whatever you say. But silence? Silence is cruel. It's the monster lurking under her emotional bed. And you became Freddy Krueger for that inner peace she never had. While she was expecting a circus, you went ahead and closed the big top. Not even a clown showed up. And that's when the game changes. Because silence, when used well, doesn't just hurt, it humiliates. It implodes inflated egos. It turns ordinary men into urban legends. And what did you become? A mystery, a riddle, a lost episode in the series of her life that'll never stop replaying in her head. So, congratulations. You finally understood the power of disappearing with class. Because the loudest shout anyone can give is to say nothing at all. And when she realizes you didn't leave open doors, but rather a maze with no exit, she'll figure out she lost. Except this time she lost alone, with no audience, no applause. Now, before we roll the video, do the basics, like, subscribe, drop a gratitude in the comments to pretend you're all spiritual, and please the algorithm. There's a whole lot of people who still need to understand that sometimes the biggest slap in the face is a well-timed absence. No more romantic delirium. Let's get straight to the point. Number 1, what she expected and what she got. Spoiler, triple dose of disappointment. The delusional one. In her mind, everything was meticulously rehearsed. She'd even chosen her emotional outfit for the scene called "I'll give him the cold shoulder so he comes crawling back." She was gonna deliver that gourmet grade indifference, acting all high and mighty, dropping that "I don't think this is working" speech like she was the CEO of emotional maturity. And you? Oh, you had the moral obligation to make your grand entrance, begging, sobbing, offering imaginary flowers. Because clearly her self-esteem depends on publicly humiliating you. But here's the plot twist. You never read the script. You didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't crawl. You just ignored the show, canceled the performance, refused to give it any audience. Total silence. And so, her house of cards collapsed. Because what she never expected was exactly this. A man with dignity, with self-control, with peace. She wanted you predictable. An emotional puppy wagging its tail every time she whistled. A junkie for answers, for closure. But this time, you served up something she never put on the emotional menu. Genuine indifference. No resentment, no theatrics, no cryptic Instagram posts, just emptiness. And man, what a blow. She threw out bait and got nothing but an echo. Tried to make a scene, but no one bought a ticket. Turned on the charm and got ignored like a random flyer shoved at you in traffic. And the worst part? You didn't vanish out of spite. You vanished because you finally understood it's pointless to argue with someone who only knows how to shout. It's pointless to chase after someone who secretly wants to see you crawling. You vanished with elegance, with class. Like you're saying, "I don't need this," without moving your lips. And that's where the real psychological terror lies. Because a drama addict short-circuits when confronted by nothing. The script breaks. The stage collapses, and she's left alone with the mirror, wondering where her ego slipped. Bravo, you were the exception that shattered the rule. And trust me, she won't forget it. And yes, this is just the beginning. Let's figure out why well-deployed silence is more powerful than any rehearsed monologue. Because sometimes the hardest emotional punch is the one you don't throw. Number 2, the surgical power of silence, or how to trigger an existential crisis without opening your mouth. Is there anything more terrifying than an emotional black hole? Yes, a black hole with a purpose. Because silence, my friend, when harnessed properly, isn't just an absence. It's a strategy, a precise tool, emotional surgery without anesthesia. Humans have this annoying habit of demanding explanations for everything. They can't accept, I don't know. They build theories, try to create logic where there's only chaos. And that's where your masterstroke comes in, the calculated disappearance. Because when you disappear with style, you're not really gone. You're installing a virus in her ego's operating system. She knows how to handle screams. She'll yell back. She knows how to handle tears. She'll use them to her advantage. She knows how to handle apologies. She'll hike up the price of forgiveness. But the one thing she can't handle at all is nothingness. A void. A blank screen where she was expecting a messy drama. Silence doesn't come with a script. No soundtrack. It doesn't let her be the star. And for someone who thrives on emotional theatrics, that's the real apocalypse. And do you know what terrifies an inflated ego the most? Losing a fight without even realizing there was one. When you vanish without warning, she doesn't get the chance to respond, manipulate, or play the mature role while quietly feasting on your vulnerability. All she's left with is an abyss. And echoing inside that abyss is the sound of her own insecurities smashing against the walls of pride. She tries to figure you out. She tries to guess. She tries to predict. But the line's dead. No signal. Because you've become a selective ghost, haunting only where it's deserved. And the cruelest part? You're not punishing, you're evolving. You're not running away, you're saving yourself. You're not ignoring, you're clearly stating, with no words at all, that you don't negotiate with tantrum-throwing kids wearing adult costumes. And that kind of maturity, that stable silence, is what flips the script. Because suddenly she hasn't just lost a boyfriend, she's lost her control. And for someone who thrives on controlling others, that's a death sentence. Now, the million-dollar question. What's the difference between a man who vanishes with class and a boy who runs off because of a bruised ego? We'll dissect that next. Because anyone can bail out, but to vanish with genuine purpose, armed with a surgical silence. That's for the guy who already gets that dignity, is the best message you never send. Number 3, disappearing with style versus disappearing out of spite, or the art of leaving through the front door while she's still yelling from the kitchen. Walking away is easy. Anyone can do it. Just uninstall an app, stop replying, pretend you're swamped. Even a sulking teenager can manage that. But disappearing with class, my friend, that's a rare skill. That's for the man who realizes silence isn't a punishment, it's a declaration of independence. Let's break it down. The sulker disappears like a pouting child. He does it, hoping for applause, tears, drama. He doesn't want out of the game. He wants center stage. He folds his arms, pouts his lips, crossing his fingers, she'll come running. All, what's wrong, sweetie? It's a dramatic silence, a needy silence, the kind that actually screams, look at me. In other words, emotional soap opera more predictable than a bad movie ending. On the other hand, the man who disappears with purpose, he's not waiting for anything. He's not playing coy. He's already figured out that if his presence isn't appreciated, his absence will be a reminder. He doesn't vanish out of pride, he vanishes out of exhaustion, because it's crystal clear that pushing any further would be self-humiliation. And unlike the sulker, he doesn't want an audience. He wants peace. Running away is cowardice. Leaving is self-awareness. One runs because he can't take it. The other leaves because he doesn't have to take it anymore. And the difference is felt in the aftermath. The sulker returns for any little crumb of attention. An emoji, a quick glance at his stories, a "Hey stranger," and boom, he's back, crawling as if nothing happened. Because he never truly vanished, he just hid out, waiting to be found. But the self-aware man, oh, he becomes a mystery. He's gone without a word. No blocking, no cursing, no blow-up. He just clocked out. And when she tries to poke, provoke, or track down a sign of life, she's left with nothing. Because he's not playing. He's ditched the board game altogether. And that stings. Because she finally realizes she lost. Not just the guy, she lost control, lost the manipulation, lost the guarantee he'd always come back. And this absence isn't just any absence. It's an absence with backbone, a silence with morals. The kind of ending that echoes. Disappearing with elegance is shutting the door without slamming it. Not throwing a fit, but making it clear. I'm not coming back. It's the sort of goodbye you don't write, but feel. And when she realizes you didn't vanish out of spite, but out of principle, that's when the floor beneath her cracks open. And now, for you who are still playing the extra in her one-woman show, pay attention. Enough with being the clown in her emotional circus. Enough with taking her cold shoulder as if it were a crumb of affection. In the description, there's a digital book that shows you how to stop being the oh-so-nice guy nobody respects and become the man no one dares to underestimate. You either learn to set the rules or stay her emotional chew toy. Decide. Number 4, the empty stage where she's no longer the leading actress. Or when the theater closes and all that's left is the dust of a wounded ego. Ah, yes, the great actress. She's been through the top drama academies of emotional theatrics, a master of the egocentric monologue, fluent in passive-aggressive manipulation. She knew how to perform like nobody else. A sigh here, a perfectly measured teardrop shining just enough to fool a sucker. Boom, scene set. And you? You were the perfect audience. You applauded even the lamest improv. Came back for more, even after being treated poorly at the ticket window of her emotional box office. For every pathetic act, you reacted like it was Shakespeare reimagined as a love drama. But, surprise. Today, the curtains parted, and the seat where you always sat is empty. She took the stage fully armed with expectations, ready for another performance, worthy of cryptic Instagram stories, and found only silence. Echoes. The void where your attention used to be. Because this time you did what she never saw coming. You got up and left halfway through the show. No throwing popcorn, no complaining about the bad script. You just walked out with the dignity of someone who finally realized that watching the same worn-out act was a waste of time and sanity. And now she has the stage, the costume, even the perfect lighting, but not you. And without an audience, my friend, no actress can keep going. Because her talent was never about real emotion, it was always about strategy. It wasn't hurt, it was a show. It wasn't longing, it was manipulation dressed up as feelings. So, what happens when the spotlight vanishes, when the puppet cuts its strings? She falls into a dramatic collapse, pretends she's fine, forces a smile, snaps a selfie from the proudest angle of a battered ego, and posts some cryptic caption like, "Whoever lost me will regret it." Super spontaneous, right? But you? You've left the building, closed the tab, moved on to a different kind of show, one where you're the main event in your own life. not a supporting character for her ego. She'll still try to stir things up, poke around, trigger your emotions with a forced pose or cryptic quotes on her feed. But now every attempt hits a cold wall, your genuine indifference. And that's something she never learned how to handle. Because she really thought she was irreplaceable, the eternal superstar of your life's soap opera. And now, with the stage empty and the lights going out, she's left with one role, the one who got forgotten. Not because you stopped loving, but because you finally loved yourself more. And that hurts more than any rehearsed act. But hang on, because the next act isn't about her, it's about what happens when your absence becomes the new star of the story. And that's a show she definitely won't want to watch. Number 5, her reactions when you really disappear, or when the queen discovers her throne was just on lease. At first, she puts on quite the show of fake confidence. She posts pictures laughing like she just hit the emotional jackpot. Generic captions like, "Freedom tastes like wine and inner peace," when in reality she's choking on her own ego. She floods her stories with her friends, laughing loudly enough to convince you and herself that she's in the best phase ever. But here's the spoiler. All facade. Emotional makeup to hide the panic over not knowing if you're still watching. Because the real issue was never losing you. It was losing the control she had over you. She doesn't miss us. She misses the reflection, the validation, the reaction. The certainty that she could still toy with you whenever she felt like it. Only now, there's one detail that changes everything. You vanished. For real. You're not faking indifference. You genuinely don't care. And that hits differently. She starts looking for clues you're alive. Goes full FBI, checking if you're online, lurking your profile like it's her job, analyzing any tiny click you might make for evidence of your mental state. All in secret, of course. Her pride still pretends to be intact. Then comes the ego test. She posts a not-so-subtle message. That song with lyrics clearly aimed at you. A vague text about growing through pain. A feel-good quote on moving on. All carefully orchestrated to stir a response. A like, a single view, a sign you're still there. But you give her nothing. You're now the Houdini of emotions. She tries to get closer, not directly. Her pride plus her manipulative side won't allow that. But she tries, likes an old pic, tosses in a LOL, randomly appears on some platform you frequent. And when she sees no answer, meltdown time. Because that silence she wrote off as disregard is now something else. Presence. Constant. Unavoidable. It's you not being there, and yet being all she can think about. But here's the biggest risk. Many guys slip up at this exact moment. The second she extends her hand, drops a hint, dangles a little bait, they take it, run back, return thirstily, full of longing, full of regret. And in that moment, my friend, the entire effect of your disappearance goes up in smoke. That's why in the next section, we'll talk about what truly separates the man who changes the game from the pawn who crawls back onto her board. Because vanishing is easy. Staying gone requires courage and clarity. Let's talk about the pitfalls that can blow it all up. Number 6, the idiotic mistakes that nullify your disappearance. Or how to throw away all your power in 3 clicks and a cringy moment. Disappearing? Anyone can do that. Turn off your phone or pretend you're busy. But vanishing with real composure, with dignity, with that ice-cold stance that says, "I'm done," that's for the few. Because your biggest enemy isn't actually her ego. It's yours. This is where most men slip and fall. They're just a couple of steps away from emotional victory, and they suddenly trip over their own desperation, crawling right back with zero dignity. Mistake number 1, watching her every move. You think you're gone, but you're checking every single story like it's your favorite Netflix series, tracking who she follows, when she's online, and every move she makes, as if she won't notice. She feels you there. Worse, she starts liking that sense of control. Your body might be gone, but your heart's still a supporting character in her drama. Mistake number 2, dropping vague hints. posting some tear-jerking music, a half-baked philosophical quote, or that classic caption, "Whoever loses me today cries tomorrow." Congrats, you've just publicly announced you're still emotionally tangled up. True silence doesn't need Morse code. If you're really over it, you simply shut up. Mistake number 3, taking the bait. She posts a selfie with the caption, "Not all silence means forgetting," and you do what? You go like it. Or worse, you drop a emoji, broadcasting anything but "I'm a man who's moved on." You just confirmed her suspicions. You're still available. Game over. Mistake number 4, disappearing while hoping she chases you. You exit stage left, but keep peeking from behind the curtains, counting the minutes for her to miss you, waiting for that redemption text. This isn't silence, it's silent theater. A sulk disguised as a stance. And when her text never comes, what do? You return, more frustrated and weaker than before. And she greets you with that "knew you'd come back" look. Mistake number 5, king of emotional stupidity, disappearing as punishment. You think you're making a deep statement, but you're basically copying her approach, trying to manipulate through absence, disappearing just to hurt, hoping she'll beg. Spoiler, if your motivation is a bruised ego, there's no redemption in sight. You become a distorted reflection of her. And guess what? Even she won't respect that. The truth is simple. Either you vanish because you've truly moved on, or don't vanish at all. Silence only holds power when it's genuine. If you screw it up here, everything crumbles. Everything you built disappears. And this time, she won't just realize she still has you. She'll lose whatever shred of respect was left. But if you maintain that silence with strength, no theatrics, no backsliding in the name of missing her, that's when the game really changes. Because she sees that she's lost not just a man, but her emotional access to you. And that's when silence stops being just a tactic and turns into your release. Let's talk about that now. Number 7, when you disappear. Not to hurt, but to heal. Or the day you decided to save yourself instead of being the lifeguard for someone else's ego. At first, sure, you want revenge. You vanish because you want her to feel it, to regret it. You want to see her suffer, with sad songs playing in the background while she posts black and white selfies. Your head screams, "Make her pay," because the ego hungry for validation wants an audience. It wants applause. It wants the sweet taste of watching her crawl back to you. But let's be honest, as long as your ego's at the wheel, you'll just keep going in circles. Your own pride taking you nowhere new. The real turning point comes when you get it. Disappearing was never about her. Never about making her feel sorry. Never about teaching her a lesson. It was, and always will be, about you. About no longer pouring the best of your energy into someone who only knows how to drain it. About shutting down the free emotional buffet for a soul that only knows consumption. When silence becomes your cure, it stops being loud. It stops being theatrical. It becomes peace. And peace, my friend, doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't need to be seen. It just is. You're no longer waiting for her to wake up. You don't need her to understand. Because you already understand. Insisting on someone who thrives on your suffering is self-destruction. One more attempt means slapping yourself with false hope. Staying means betraying yourself. Real disappearance doesn't hurt. It frees you. Because it emerges from the realization that you can't fit into that cramped emotional space anymore, always folding yourself to not bother her, swallowing your words so you won't lose her, accepting breadcrumbs while acting like they're a full-course meal. She can invent whatever story she wants, paint you as cold, distant, insensitive. But deep down in her own quiet moments, no cameras, no stories she knows. She knows you left because you finally chose yourself. You didn't leave to punish. You left because staying was punishment enough. And when silence arises from that clarity, from that self-love, it can't be broken. It's no longer a matter of pride. It's a matter of emotional health. She can try everything. She can shout, drop a "Hey stranger," wave her last-minute charm, or fake a heartfelt apology. But the brutal truth remains. None of it touches you anymore. because she didn't just lose a man. She lost the only man who had the guts not to return, who had the insight to realize that love without reciprocity is no love at all. It's a waste. And that absence, oh, she'll feel it all right. Even while smiling, even while posting, even while faking it. Because the silence born out of true self-respect resonates louder than any cry of loneliness. Next, we'll dive into the invisible impact you left behind, the one she'll never admit, but feels every single day. Number 8, the emptiness she'll never admit she feels, or the pain that can't be filtered. Oh, she'll keep up appearances. She'll post, she'll laugh, she'll flaunt that so-called freedom, as if she's just been released from some cage, even though the only prison was her overblown ego. She'll pump out an "I've risen from the ashes" caption, even though she's emotionally in pieces. She might even snag a new fling because she has to prove to herself she's moved on. But you know what none of that is? Genuine. Because the reality, my friend, doesn't show up on Instagram. It doesn't pop up in that boomerang of cheers with her friends. It's hidden behind the performance. Because what she really feels, she won't show. Because revealing it would mean admitting something crucial, that you mattered. And for her, that's unacceptable. She's not crying over the breakup itself. She's crying over the loss of control, over the instruction manual she thought she'd written for your emotions, over that sense of power she believed she had, over the belief that when all was said and done, you'd still be there, orbiting around her narcissistic little sun. But this time, the satellite pulled away from orbit, and the emptiness hits hard, not on her stories, on her pillow, when the phone no longer buzzes with your name, when she stares at the screen expecting you but you never show up, when she tries to fool the algorithm with forcedly happy selfies, but it's her own internal algorithm that's crashing. She doesn't miss the two of you. She misses knowing you still cared. But now, you don't. And what stings? It's not that you vanished. It's that you vanished and didn't look back. Your indifference is what burns. Because she knows. You finally saw the full picture. You understood it all. And still, you didn't make a sound. That deliberate absence, that conscious choice, punches her ego in the gut. Doubt is the harshest sentence. Did he really forget me? Did he actually move on? Was I really just one more passing fling? She'll never own up to these questions. Of course not. Because owning them means giving away power she's trying so hard to preserve. Problem is, you already stole that power the moment you decided not to return. And that silence, which once seemed like weakness, became a permanent mark. A ghostly presence. Something she feels every day, but never confesses. Because what she lost wasn't just you. She lost the certainty she still had you under her thumb. All right, now brace yourself. Because in the next bit, we go beyond silence as a response. We'll talk about silence as an identity, as a lifestyle. When you don't just disappear, you evolve, and she'll never catch up. Number 9, embracing silence as a new way of life, or when you stop explaining yourself and start commanding respect without saying a word. There comes a point when everything truly flips. Not by chance, but by an internal spark. A click. A silent enough. You realize silence, which once served to poke her ego, has leveled up. It's become a choice, a philosophy, your new way of communicating. And no, it's not about resentment, not about an overblown ego. It's about clarity, about finally getting that talking, explaining, insisting, justifying. Only made you smaller. It proved you were still trying to buy a ticket for a show that should have ended long ago. You tried to convince someone of your worth, someone who saw you as free emotional labor. You tried to justify your presence to someone who only showed up when it suited them. Then it hit you. Those who are truly worth it don't need you to bend over backwards to be noticed. Now, silence isn't a punishment. It's a filter, a shield, a fortress for someone who's done giving away free admission to his heart. You're not just cutting her off. You're cutting out anything that reduced you to a backup plan. Fair weather friends who only call when they need something. Environments where you're the emotional filler. Conversations where you spoke volumes and were heard scarcely. You're no longer reacting. You've stopped explaining yourself to folks who never wanted to understand. Now you decide who hears you, who gets your story, who's allowed into your life. And the best part? You don't have to make a huge announcement. No dramatic posts, no cryptic stories, no passive-aggressive quotes. You simply vanish from the radar of those who don't deserve your presence. And that, my friend, changes everything. Because the guy who used to be endlessly available, always ready, ever predictable, just became an enigma. The one who doesn't answer, who doesn't come back, who learned to walk alone and is enjoying the view. She, the one who believed she'd won, now watches your absence become a massive presence. A silence that roars louder than any war of words, and one that offers zero chance for a rematch. What she called revenge. That was your liberation. The turning point. The moment you stopped begging for attention and started demanding respect simply by refusing to explain yourself anymore. And that's the understanding we end on. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to suffer to be valued. And you sure as hell don't have to come back to prove you mattered. Your silence is now your signature, and she'll spend the rest of her days trying to decipher what you already left behind. Conclusion. The final revenge is not needing revenge at all. Or, the day you disappeared and took the emotional instruction manual she used to control you. She was convinced your silence was just another tactic. Another dramatic pause. Another rebound strategy. She thought you were just biding your time, waiting for the perfect chance to come crawling back, apologizing, with a virtual rose between your teeth. After all, she always counted on that, right? On your predictable return, on your quiet dependency, disguised as persistence. But this time, she got it wrong.